Greetings, I am Joffrey, and welcome to my first video on Elder Kings 2. This hotly anticipated mod has much to be discussed in the way of religion. However, I expect that many people neither wish to read the dev diaries, nor delve through the mod's Discord server for information. Even then, while updates are posted on the server, they are few and far between, as the team has a policy of waiting until something is just right before a team member is willing to show it off. This leads to many memes and cursed screenshots being shared with the community, some of which getting more cursed the longer you look at them. Now to the point. This video shall be the first in a series covering the development of Elder Kings 2. This first one covering everything we know about religion. The Elder Kings 2 team has committed to diversifying faiths as much as is feasible, stretching the limits of Crusader Kings 3 with new systems for pantheons and Daedra worship respectively. These enable the nuances of many faiths in Nirn to be more fully represented. The history of Tamriel's religions is one of choosing which of the various Aedra and Daedra to include in a pantheon. The events of the Elder Scrolls V Skyrim perfectly exemplify the importance of each and every nuance of these choices by having a civil war between friendly cultures over the exclusion of a single member of a 9 divine pantheon. As for how a player may take advantage of the new systems, it all comes down to creating a new faith. When creating a new faith, the player may choose between various appropriate pantheons or singular patrons to have the faith devoted to, while also choosing the specific tolerance or lack thereof for worship of each and every Daedra. One example could be the Dunmer creating a new faith that worships the House of Troubles, also known as the Four Bad Testing Daedra, while banning one or more of their traditional good Daedra. I'm sure Sheogorath would approve greatly. The gods worshipped by a faith determine the list of patrons a character following that faith may pick from for bonuses. Being syncretic with another faith allows access to their pantheon as well. Hierarch's Breton Rite, for example, is a game start faith syncretic with the elven gods. Those faiths with a singular deity instead of a pantheon give all adherents the same bonuses as each other, scaling with the adherent's devotion, even becoming negatives if the player is sinful. Other faiths, such as the Nordic pantheon, may be the same as their cousins in Cyrodiil at heart, but the children of Skyrim refer to their gods by different names, and I wouldn't recommend trying to correct them either. Adding Daedra to a pantheon does have stipulations. If a faith worships a singular Aedra or Daedra, none may be added, as the faith is monotheistic by nature. The faith may only add Daedra to the pantheon if they either have the Daedric prince's main pantheon, or by having a separate pantheon and aligning your values with those of the Daedra to be added. To add Molag Bal, for example, one would need to accept vampires. Or for Boethia, having either the Unrelenting Faith or Sacred Lies tenets. Seeing as there are so many Daedra to potentially worship, and it can be considered a crime to worship them, it is only natural that the vanilla witchcraft secret is mostly phased out by the secret worship of these malign gods. Faiths in the Elder Scrolls are almost always strongly linked to a culture and race. We don't often hear of Khajiit worshipping Polanial Whitestrake, for example, though that is a particularly strong case. This led to the team concluding that handing 76% of the faiths the communal identity tenet was impractical. Their solution? Creating an entire doctrine to gauge the cultural length of a given faith. Examples of these links are most Daedric cults accepting anyone they can get their hands on, for no cultural ties. The Nord and Cyrodiilic pantheons are loosely tied to their cultures. However, it is not uncommon for a Redguard living in Skyrim for a generation or more to identify with the Nordic rites. The brutal breed orcs are an example of strong cultural identity, being a cult focused on revenge against the Redguards and Bretons who drove the pariah folk from Orsinium not so long ago. thereby a faith found among multiple orc cultures. Yet Reach folk will find it difficult to sympathize with the orcs on their revenge quest, much less change their core ideals to be in line with it. The Allmaker faith of the Skull is unique to Solstheim, and even their brother Nords will find their traditions hard to grasp. The Nerevarine prophecies are almost exclusive to the Ashlander tribes of Vardenfell. That, combined with the distrust they feel of outsiders, makes it exceedingly rare for even fellow Dunmer to learn the basics of the faith, much less convert. In fact, Ashlanders may see it as a personal slight if they learned that outsiders were worshipping Nerevar. There are even examples of faiths that have separate versions based on who their worshippers are. The Imperial Cult, Nord Pantheon, and Breton Rites are all examples of mostly similar faiths at game start that are tied to a race at a basic level. And while most Daedric cults will take whoever they can find, the Code of Malakath is specific to Orcish followers, leading the standard Cult of Malakath for the other races to follow. By this time, the team had run out of space for faith doctrines, and every tenant slot is needed to make use of the custom tenets they are creating. So they decided to make a special doctrine space to fill with more flavor. Cyrodiil is home to many strange faiths living in relative peace with one another. Hero cults, ancestor moth worship, and the main imperial cult are all examples of faiths with a Cyrodiilic cult special doctrine, causing them to view one another as astray and not hostile. Those faiths that worship the 8 divines all possess the Council of 8 special doctrine, with similar results. These faiths would include the Imperial Cult, Nordic Pantheon, and Breton Rite, for example. Therefore, a Nord who conquers their way through the Pale Pass will see the Imperial Cult as astray, while the Ancestor Moth faith will be hostile at best. The Cyrodiilic faith starts as the leader of the Council of the 8. However, any member faith can choose to take the role of leader if they become larger. So let's say much of Cyrodiil remains under Saesi rule and begins converting to Dawn's beauty. The Nords may then choose to take up the mantle as head of the council. Here comes what I consider the most crazy thing that these mad lads have done with religion. Somehow, someway, Sange has managed to rework the entire holy site system out of pure spite and hard work. This has led to players now having the capability to create their own holy sites. The cost increases with each new holy site up to the maximum of 9. This does cost a vast quantity of gold and piety, as well as requiring the head of faith to not despise you. If there is no head, then things are even more difficult, as the level of devotion required will increase. To top it off, if the player's faith has any cultural or communal identity doctrines, the site of the faith must be of that culture in addition to the faith. The one downside of this, however, is that only certain key holy sites at game start are going to be able to be given the arbitrary bonuses that we know and love from vanilla CK. A small price to pay for the ability to make the Imperial City a holy site of the Hagraven cults, I say. They will, however, still be valid targets for pilgrimages. At least, they typically will. Sange has somehow managed to make the holy sites either active or inactive based on their owner. Simply stated, if the holy site owner is hostile enough, you can't go see the funny rock all your mates insist your people's ancient hero king was born from. And when I say hostile enough, I don't just mean the fates need to be hostile or evil. That's because they did it a bloody game and overhauled the entire hostility system. Now, with calculations that go from 1 to 33 for righteous, all the way to 67 to 100 for evil. This system is planned to dynamically change as faiths interact. If two faiths coexist in relative harmony for many years, it is hoped to make them grow more tolerant of one another. However, many factors would affect this trend in one direction or the other. For now, though, we do not know how the devs will release the system on launch, as DLCs change aspect of the game leading up to release. Custom virtues and sins will also make an appearance in Elder Kings 2, with players able to hand-pick the virtues and sins of their faith among the personality traits. Excluding the ability for contradictions, such as brave and craven both being virtues, faiths will also have their hostility influenced by what virtues and sins they each have. Lastly, we come to the Fervor Equilibrium system, the most recent faith mechanic shown off. Fervor Equilibrium replaces the somewhat unintuitive Fervor system of the vanilla game by giving each faith a base resting point. Every faith will attempt to have its fervor reach the equilibrium point over time, and various modifiers will change what that base is. Most will be the same as what causes monthly growth in vanilla, only swapped for the new system. Most faiths will rest between 40 and 60. However, they can rise or fall beyond that based on events, holy wars, and any other sudden change, such as a new faith being created. On the subject of creating new faiths, one question I still have on the subject is what the starting fervor will be for these new faiths. Seeing as creating new faiths is likely to be a fan favorite in Elder Kings 2, I can only wonder if the new faith will start at 100 fervor, as in vanilla, or will it begin at the equilibrium? In any case, the new fervor equilibrium system is intended to make fervor a mechanic that will bear watching, unlike vanilla, where it stays above 80% near always. I, for one, am excited to have heresies popping up as I stretch my dominion too thin. I thank you all who have made it to the end of this video. I apologize for my voice as well. I hate having to record with a cold as much as you all must dislike having to listen to it, I'm sure. I do plan on making this a continuing series in which I will cover one or more aspects of the mod in future. I have my sights on the culture specifically as well. I'm not sure how many categories I will do. There's only so many ways you can slice up the components of mod after all. But the next one will most definitely be the culture. Again, thank you all, and I hope you will join me next time.